So after buying the GFX 50R a few months back, I went into the purchase knowing that I was going to be buying the 50mm 3.5 to pair with it. And there are a few reasons why I wanted that lens specifically to pair with the 50R as my first lens for that system. First of all, it's the smallest lens they make for the GFX system currently. It's a 50mm, which the equivalent full frame is like a 40mm. And granted, I've really never shot with that focal length before, but I'm a fan of the 35, I'm a fan of the 50, and you know what? I thought, a 40, that'll be a great little option to have on a medium format. And the other thing was the price. I didn't have another $1,500 or $2,000 to go drop on a native Fuji lens. And at the time I got this was on sale for half off, so $500. This lens is regularly on sale for half off, and it's $1,000 retail, so half off is $500. And when you look at their other lenses that are $1,500, $2,000, $2,500, you might be forgiven for thinking that this lens is kind of the runt of the litter. It's kind of the really cheap nifty 50, so to speak, made from inferior materials. Image quality isn't going to be as good or as sharp. But man, would you be wrong if you thought that. Because in my opinion, if you're getting this on sale for $500, which it is regularly, you're getting a lens that punches well above its weight class. First of all, the construction is on par with the other GF lenses in the lineup. It's really well made, it feels solid. The aperture ring is great. I mean, it's the perfect balance of stiffness and smoothness to the aperture ring. And same for the manual focus ring. It's just a great quality lens. And the size is such a great advantage. Paired with the 50R, this is such a compact setup for a medium format system. And the lens is more than capable of handling the resolution of this 50 megapixel sensor. The images, wide open even at 3.5, are so sharp. It really, to me, takes advantage of that amazing sensor. And honestly, 3.5, you may think it's kind of lackluster because it's, for a fast prime, you want an f2 or an f2.8, or even something below an f2, like a 1.8, 1.4, but really 3.5 on this medium format sensor is excellent as far as the look you can get from it. If you want a shallow depth of field, you can achieve that with this. And in low light it may be a little bit of a disadvantage, 3.5, but honestly I haven't found that to be the case. If I have to crank the ISO up to 1600 or so, it's not a big deal. 1600 on this sensor looks incredible. Loads of detail you're going to retain, a little bit of grainy look to it, but I mean, all in all, shooting at 1600 or 3200 on this camera is not a big deal. The images look fantastic. So even in lower light situations where you would want like an f2, I find that it really isn't a big deal. But man, is this lens just a great option if you're really wanting to get into the GFX lineup and you're spending $3,000 on a body, getting it used or, on sale or what have you. Picking this lens up for under $1,000 is a fantastic option. If you like shooting this sort of focal length, the 50 or 35 or 40, how small it is and how light and then how compact and travel friendly it makes this camera it's just a lot of good value in my opinion. I recently took it on a trip to the beach and, I had like little impromptu photo shoots with my parents on the beach after their date night and, shooting photos of family members and then capturing images of my wife and son in the ocean. Some of these shots just really mean a lot to me, and the quality of these photos are just absolutely outstanding, and it was just a great companion to have on a vacation with family and in this sort of environment. But man, does this camera body and this lens just pair excellent together. It's just, in my opinion, kind of a match made in heaven if you're looking for an all-around focal length, kind of an everyday focal length that you can get in and do some portraits, and then you can do some environmental portraits or landscapes or documentary work. it is well worth the money you're spending on it to pair with this body. And I even like little details like the lens hood that comes with it. It's so discreet, and it screws on, and I almost forget that it's a separate lens hood. It almost feels like it's just part of the lens. It was built that way when you screw it on. But in my opinion, all around, I think Fujifilm really thought this lens out, and it's just an X. I'm so glad it's available for the GFX system. But honestly, if you're getting it on sale for $500 or you're finding it secondhand for $600 or $700, you can't go wrong. And the build quality matched with the autofocus performance, which to me is quite snappy on the 50R. Really no complaints. And then in addition, the image quality, you're not getting a value cheap nifty 50. It is not that. This is not what this lens is. It is so much more than that. And for me, as someone just getting into medium format and the GFX system, it's the perfect starter lens, I guess. But I hate saying that because it's not just a starter lens. I plan to eventually evolve my lenses for the system. Maybe buy some vintage lenses and adapt, or some more native glass throughout the years. And this lens is not just going to be my starter entry lens. It's still going to maintain the value that it has now for me, even if I go get something like the 32 to 64 or the 23 millimeter or something like that. This lens is not going to just go, fall by the wayside. It's still going to be an excellent option to go to whenever I want, a documentary type focal length. So really, to me, this has been kind of my new favorite combo and setup. I look forward to grabbing this camera anytime I go shooting. And this lens is a big part of that. And I hate to say it, but anytime I want a 50 millimeter kind of equivalent focal length to go shoot with, I want this, and I don't want my 35 f2 for my XT system so much, which kind of leads me on. I might sell that 35 f2 for another lens that I'm going to be pairing for my XT1, which is a future video that'll be coming up shortly. Because honestly, I feel like that almost is a little bit redundant now that I've fallen in love with this 50R paired with the 53.5. I'd almost rather grab this than an XT2 or an XT1 with the 35 f2 now. So all in all, everything from the build quality of the lens to the autofocus motors and speed and performance to the image quality to how it pairs with the 50R, that just how light and compact and just travel friendly and just how it makes this setup is just such incredible value. I can't stress that enough. I have thoroughly enjoyed my time since buying this camera and lens. I think Fujifilm really knocked it out of the park, in just designing a lens that is going to be, I guess, as close as you can get to a pancake lens for a medium format body. But designing a lens that the focal length, I think, is a great spot. I think the f3.5 is a good compromise because, if you go for a 2.8, it's just going to be bigger, and then it's going to kind of defeat the purpose of this lens. And I think they've just knocked it out of the park with the image quality, retaining the outstanding image quality. And that again is the point of the GFX system is, really good quality glass, high resolution sensors, that sort of thing. It just, to me, kind of fits the whole ethos of, what they're trying to achieve with mirrorless medium format, being a lot cheaper and a lot smaller and more accessible. And this lens fits into that mold while retaining everything good about going with medium format. So this has been basically just a rave review, if you can't tell. Honestly, don't have a lot of criticisms of the lens. I will say the one thing I don't like about it so much is the minimum focusing distance. You're not going to get really up close with things. And it's kind of surprising at this focal length just how far back you kind of have to get. So that is one thing that every now and then would kind of bother me. I wanted to get just a tad bit closer and couldn't. But I will say, given everything I've talked about, it is, for me, a minor issue and really the only criticism I have of the lens. I'm able to really look past that, and it's not a big deal and doesn't really affect me a whole lot. for the, the purposes of what I use this for. But, just be in mind of that. Once again, I hope you've enjoyed the photos. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Be looking out for a 16mm 2.8 review for the XF mount, because that is a lens that has surprised me with how much I've enjoyed it. And after that, sometime in the future, I'll be doing a 16mm 1.4 review. So stay tuned, because I've got some good content coming. Thanks for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.